Welcoming Ayron Jones back to Loudwire Nights this evening, getting caught up on what's going on with the musician and where we stand on that debut album. Try to pry some windows of dates, but before we get to that, thank you for your time, Ayron, and how have you been?
I've been really good, and thanks for having me, Toni. It's really good to be here with you again. And I've been really great, just trying to keep up with all the new stuff happening in my life. You know, it's been kind of a whirlwind since the single dropped. So yeah.
Before we get to the single, and I want to hear about the whirlwind and all of that, but given the time of year, everybody's kind of in that holiday frame of mind. So I'm wondering, what's your favorite part of the holidays? I know you're a dad.
Well, my favorite part of the holidays being a new dad. I got married a couple of years ago, and I've been with my wife now for about 6 years before we got married. So I think my favorite part of the holidays is being home with the family and just taking some time off from my normally busy schedule, so that's been really great. And just kind of just creating these new traditions. You grow up in these families and have these old traditions, and as soon as you start a new one, you get a chance to create new stuff. So that's probably my favorite part, is creating these new traditions with my family.
Are you a spoil the kids rotten type, or nah, let's keep them humble, just a couple gifts?
No, we spoil them rotten, man.
Nice.
I didn't have a lot to grab from as a kid. With my background and upbringing, and the house I grew up in was a single family household with 3 kids. So, we had to kind of live more humbly, I think, than sometimes we wanted to. So now that I'm able to, I try to provide as best I can for the kids. I spoil them. I get them whatever they want.
I love it. I was going to say it's probably because of your childhood, because my sister has 2 kids too, and they get just tons of presents, and every Christmas, me and my sister look at each other and we're like, they have no idea. We would get one Christmas present and we would be so happy, little spoiled, but it's nice to spoil them. So figured as much.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly.
One last holiday-ish related question. I don't like the word resolutions because it's negative, kind of taking away. I like any 2021 goals, anything that you have on the list to definitely accomplish in the new year.
Tour. That's on my list right now, is tour, get back out there. I think that is my only New Year's goal right now. I think is getting back in shape and going on tour.
And are you hopeful? Yeah. I mean, I was going to ask you, are you hopeful about the return of live music in 2021? What are you feeling?
Yeah, I think it'll start to come back. I think everything kind of shut down in phases, and you'll see it come back in phases. So I think you'll slowly start to see music come back probably this summer. And then I think by the fall and beginning of next year, it'll fully be back. But yeah, it'll slowly start here in the summer and the fall. And then I think by beginning of next year for sure.
Have you been thinking of that first show? Are you imagining yourself on stage like that glorious day when there's an audience again?
Yeah, I've been thinking about it. I've been more concerned with just getting myself back up to speed. I think everybody's a little bit rusty right now without having all the reps. So yeah. that's my I'm a little nervous to get back up there. If I was thinking about it, if somebody was tomorrow you're playing the show, I'd be like, well, So
a little bit of nerves.
So yeah, but I'm excited for it. Though I'm excited to get back on the stage. I'm excited. I have this has been happening for me in the pandemic, so I have all these new fans out here who've never seen me do a live show. So I'm pretty excited to get back out there.
Speaking of the pandemic and then music talk, has the pandemic and all the surrounding strangeness of 2020 brought you any, I guess how Oprah would say, an aha moment, not to steal your word there, Oprah, but you seem like a really introspective guy, and I think a lot of soul searching has been done by a lot of us this year. Do you have any takeaways that will no doubt stick with you for years to come, any perspective shifts maybe?
I don't know if that perspective shifts. It's kind of hard to pinpoint one thing or another. I will say that I have really taken the time to enjoy the smaller things in life, and I think that was kind of a refreshing for me with the pandemic and everything kind of shutting down. It's just really appreciating sitting on my couch and playing video games, the fact that I can do that, or just appreciating the fact that I get to see my kids and I'm at home more than I have been in past years, So yeah. I think that's been a really great thing for me. It's just slowing down a little bit and enjoying the things the foundation that built my life towards these days,
Yeah. All right, Let's talk about Take Me Away, finally. I feel like we've been playing and talking about your magnificent song, Take Me Away, for a while now, but it's still climbing. It's still doing its thing. It's at number 4 on rock radio. It's been a slow yet consistent climb. How do you deal with slow and consistent?
I do fine with it. I mean, being that I never had anything on the charts before, I never had anything on the music charts before. So I do just fine. I mean, just even. I mean, I remember when we debuted at 38 or something like that, and I was like, "Oh wow, this is amazing!" Never did I. I'm like, guys, look at my wife. I'm like, we're on Billboard. Look, guys.
Nice.
So. The fact that it's still climbing is just been a tremendous bonus and a surprise, for me. I didn't, you drop a single, you get on the charts, and you hope it does the best. Breaking into the top 20 was amazing. Breaking the top 10 was amazing. And now here you are at the top 5 with a chance to maybe even hit number 1. It's like that is, for me is an incredible feeling. And slow and consistent is just fine with me. I think that sudden change can be a lot for people. Like being on the music charts alone is a sudden change enough. So just to be able to kind of just soak it in as it's climbing and kind of get used to every step of the way, that's been a blessing for me.
All right, now AC/DC and Foo Fighters, just get out of the way. We're just trying to get to number 1 here. Just scoot on over. Do you think? And I always wonder about this. Do you think a musician's first hit will forever hold like a special place in your heart, or do you think you'll get to a point? And I know it's hard to know now, where you're just like, take me away, just another song. I don't want to play it anymore. I'm over it. I'm bored by it.
Never. Never. I don't think I'll ever feel that way. I don't think I'll ever feel that way. I think that for the rest of the time, Take Me Away is going to be the song that, that launched my career into this part that I'm at right now, to this commercial radio major label thing that I'm doing, that's forever going to be that song for me. And it was, for me, it's funny because like I wrote the song probably, I want to say it was about 5 years ago now. And even then, like I knew that song could be a hit. Mm-hmm. And the thing about hits, and I don't know if we talked about this last time, maybe we did, but the thing about hits is like you're never really going to know if you have a hit until you have a shot at making it a hit,
Yep.
And so lo and behold, like 5 years later, here we are, and it's finally made it, So Take Me Away has always been, for me, I've always looked at that song as a song that was gonna bring me here, or take me away. See what I did there?
I see what you did. It worked.
Yeah, so it's that song for me, and it always will be for the rest of the time, for sure.
Tell us about the real life stories, or a real life story that inspired your latest release, Boys from the Puget Sound.
Oh yeah, for sure. So here's one. We were playing, during that indie era of my career, and we were touring around in this minivan. We had a trailer on the back. It was a Toyota Sienna minivan with a trailer on the back. And the trailer was actually like a lawnmower trailer. It was really made for gear, so we would have to like change the tires every 100 miles or so because they would just like crap out on us, So we're in Utah, and we're playing this bar, and we show up, and there's supposed to be a PA person there, and there's no person to run the sound. And in fact, it's not just a person to not run the sound. There's no sound system.
That's a problem.
Well, yeah, So we were upset about it, and so we decided that we were going to go ahead and just at first we were like, let's not do it, and they were like, oh, let's do it. We went back and forth a little bit, but we decided to do it, and we're at Salt Lake, and so I ended up like plugging in a microphone to my amplifier and then playing to my amp and singing through it simultaneously, which kind of sounded cool, but it didn't really work out, for a big bar. And we're playing this bar, and the cops show up, and they're like, "Oh, you guys are too loud." I'm like, "We're in a music venue, and it's too loud." And so this is something that would occur over and over again, no matter like just about everywhere we went. That was like basically a smaller venue or wasn't equipped for sound. I mean, we would play some shows over in the Pacific Northwest on Ocas Island. Cops would show up. We had cops show up in Seattle. Had cops show up all over the country. So finally wrote this song about it, which is, Boys from Puget Sound, which starts out, I already called the effing police because we're the baddest band in town,
I
So
love it.
that's really where that song came from. And I know a lot of people, when they hear that song, they're like, "Oh, you wrote about the riots." When in
Yep.
fact, the riots hadn't happened
Yep.
yet because the song was written like 5 years ago.
At some
So
point, we're like, venues like, no, these guys are going to get the cops
mm,
called on us. Don't book them.
that's exactly what happened.
It did happen.
Absolutely. Because they thought we were a blues band. I mean, we came from the bar scene, came from the really the blues scene. Honestly, I mean, some of our first shows were at big blues shows, opening for cats like Robert Cray, and I'd opened for B.B. King, and so a lot of cats thought we were this blues band, but lo and behold, didn't realize that we even though we had a blues influence, we were a hard rock band. So we'd show up and people would just be disgusted with us,
Yeah, that's great. How much of that do you think is going to happen when you release the debut album? Like, I feel just knowing a bit about your influences and knowing a bit about, you are a rock band, but do you think people are going to be surprised by kind of the different sounds in the debut album?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't know that people realize how eclectic my sound is
Right.
yet. I'm influenced by so many different eras and different genres of music, and rock happens to be my outlet. So I think people are going to be extremely surprised to hear what's in store when this album drops.
When is that happening, by the way? Early 2021?
Ooh.
Do we have a window? Do we have a month? What do we got?
We don't have anything locked in yet. I haven't talked to the label about any particular dates yet. We have some timelines we're looking at, but we don't really have anything locked in yet. We were thinking early 2021, but we'll find out, man. Hopefully we'll know at the end of this week. I mean, I'm doing some work here in Nashville right now to put some finishing touches on the record, and hopefully we'll have a conversation with the label this week to figure out exactly when that's going to be.
Exciting. I'm sure we'll be talking about it on the show, no doubt. You're from Seattle, very proud of it. Alice in Chains recently honored with the Mopop Founders Award, and there was this huge virtual celebration, performances by Metallica, Korn, Corey Taylor, the one and only Ayron Jones as well. Not to pin one event against the other, because that would be unfair, but how did that compare to performing the national anthem at the Seattle Seahawks game earlier this year?
Oh, the apples and oranges, really. Like the Seahawks thing was amazing. So first of all, I got to talk though about the AIC thing, because that was such an interesting thing for me.
Okay.
Because it was first of all an honor to just be called to do that. Got a call from my producer Eric Lavoie. I said, "Hey man, they're looking for you to do this thing. I put your name in the hat. Like, do you want to do this?" I said, "Absolutely, no problem." So I was really honored to be able to be a part of it. I don't know if you caught my the performance with Duff. I got to play guitar with Duff and Shooter Jennings on Down in the Hole. And so, that was amazing. And then I did a rendition of Heaven Beside You, which wasn't honestly my favorite performance of mine.
Yeah, the reviews were a little mixed on that one.
Oh yeah, I knew it was gonna be love or hate. Here's what was going on. Okay, here's the inside scoop.
Tell me.
So because of COVID, I was supposed to perform that earlier on when I had come back from Nashville when I was working on some of the record, and but because of COVID, I had to kind of take a week off to make sure I was quarantined and do all that. This is during the time that they were doing all these performances and everything. So my preparation was thrown off for that song. And then I was in the studio basically finishing up the recording for a bunch of batches of songs this time around. So I'm squeezing in this performance at the same time. They literally came to the studio as we're recording to capture this performance of Heaven Beside You. So and also it wasn't like my first pick of songs, you know what I mean? Like it was one of those instances where it's like, okay, Ayron, what song do you want to do? And I was like, how about let's do Rain When I Die. They're like, no, you can't do that song.
Why'd you ask?
Ayron Jones. Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So you can't do that song because you're Ayron Jones and everyone else has they're in the Hall of Fame. And I'm like, oh, that makes sense when you put it that way. So I'm gonna do this song, So anyways, I ended up doing the song. The reason I chose the approach I did the song, and I know there's mixed reviews for it, and again, I say it first, it wasn't my favorite performance, but the reason I chose to do it that way is because I knew that there were going to be some people that loved it, or knew that there was going to be some people that hated it, but either way, it was going to leave a lasting impression, and at some point my name was going to pop up again in the ether for these people. Go. But yeah, anyways, I was so honored to be a part of it, man. I mean, it was such a beautiful thing to honor this band that had such an influence. I mean, not just on the music world, but on my city as a whole. The thing that I don't think a lot of people realize about the Seattle music scene is that we are all so interconnected from the top to bottom. Like Mike McCready has been known to find bands he loves and put them on. I got put on by Sir Mix-a-Lot. I get endorsed by bands and people like Duff McKagan. It was just such an honor to be included in such a huge event, and then with all these other all stars too, to honor such an amazing band. That was great. And then the Seahawks thing was also great too. Just to be able to play the national anthem in this really it was really eerie, but it was beautiful at the same time, because the nation is going through all this turmoil and there's so much controversy around the national anthem. So to be a person of color, to be able to play the national anthem and still kind of hold my belief system, but still do it because it's important. I think that people realize that even though that there are differences in this country, even though there are going to be different ideologies in this country, this is still all our country, and so it was very special to be picked to play with the Seahawks and for the Seahawks.
Was there a part of you that was like, man, I want my grandkids to see this and I'm wearing this damn mask? Not in an anti-masker kind of way, or does that make it more memorable in a weird way?
It's a little of both, like I didn't really want to wear the mask, but I think, there were two things we had talked about. I think I talked about with the Seahawks before we did it. And it was that, like, we already knew I was already getting flack just for being black and doing the national anthem. There's a bunch of comments about how, is he going to do the American national anthem or the black one and all this other stuff?
What?
It was just a bunch of political hoopla,
I didn't know that.
and so when I got there, we kind of played everything safe. They're like, take off your hat. No problem. I'll take off my signature hat. Ayron, do you mind wearing a mask? Because we just don't want people, we're trying to promote people wearing masks. We don't want to be those guys that don't do this. So, there was a lot of politics behind it, but I thought it was important either way. And I think that, it's going to leave a timestamp on this time period, like everything else that's happened in 2020.
That's why it's kind of cool at the same time. Like, it kind of sucks, but it is also kind of cool.
Absolutely, yeah.
I was telling a friend of mine that I was going to be interviewing you today, and he said, ask him what he thinks about Joe Rogan being a fan and a huge supporter of his. And I am aware that a ton of people love Joe Rogan, and he loves you. So thoughts on the good vibage and support from the almighty Joe Rogan, as many consider him?
It was amazing. I don't know. The thoughts. I don't know. What's the person to say when Joe Rogan tweets about you? What do you say? I don't know, man. I am really happy that Joe is a fan. I always thought he would be. Honestly, I've been following Joe's show and a listener of his show and a fan of his for years. Since the first Fear Factor. Let's be real.
Oh wow.
And so I've been following Joe for years, and just I knew he would be a fan if he got a hold of my music. And so this the mere fact that like Jamie Vernon from the show it was a fan and it turned Joe on. It was really cool, man. I'm really honored by it, and I'm hoping that in the next year here, once we get this record finished, we can get on the show and talk more about it, man. The endorsement was amazing. It was beautiful, and I tell you, like my Instagram, everything jumped by like
for sure.
I got about 10,000, 15,000 followers on Instagram just from that. It was beautiful, man, and I'm just really appreciative of Joe and Jamie for putting out the word, man. And they're a pretty good reason I got a boost in radio plays and all that too. So nice. I really appreciate them.
Nice. You seem to have, and I don't know what the right word is, like I don't know if it's a faith or some people just have this like instinctual knowledge thing. Like you said, I knew if he would get a hold of my music, he would like it. I knew that if Take Me Away got the opportunity, it would be the song. Like, where does that come from?
I think it comes from studying people, like I as a person with my background, with dealing with abandonment and a lot of the loneliness you feel, and when you get moved around a little bit as a kid, before I found a stable home, between the ages of like, about three to five or so, it kind of just planted the seed of observation in me, and so, I'm also like an avid chess player and patterns are just kind of my thing, you know what I mean? So if you can kind of pinpoint patterns and formulas and certain instinctual behaviors of people, you can kind of figure out, how things are placed in their minds, and so, I think that's where it comes from. I'm also a very introspective and spiritual person. So like, I think that a lot of my philosophies on life and my philosophies on energy and spirituality, I think are what help fuel this ability to have this foresight, So I try to rely on the, my intuition to help guide the way, my emotions to help guide the way. So I think that might be where it comes from. That, you know, I live in Seattle, so we smoke a lot of weed. That helps.
I can confirm that it is not the weed. I'll tell you that much. Okay. Thank you so much for your time, Ayron. A million thank yous for the follow-up. I already know there's going to be a follow-up to the follow-up. Till then, all the best to you and yours.
Thank you so much, Toni. It's good talking to you.